doesn't get any more authentic than this. Welcome to the Voiceover Gurus podcast.
And how did you get started, Linda? In podcasting?
In podcasting. Well, I was in radio for a long time, as so many people in voiceover were or are still. And it was like 2016. I actually decided to start a podcast just because I thought, wouldn't it be fun to just chat with people about like the real stuff happening in voiceover without any kind of, it's not like I'm not into celebrity stuff and all that. And I was like, well, I was in radio for a long time. How hard can this be? Not factoring in the production and all the other outside elements that go in with this. So I was very naive. But it's just kind of blossomed, and it's been a real good source of, I coach, so I get a lot of students from the podcast too. It's just,
good.
Yeah, it's a nice loss leader, as they say.
I love it.
Right.
Money, but people get to know you. But let's talk about all that good stuff. Okay, so we have Natasha Marchewka, and Kim Wilson. Welcome back to another episode of the Voiceover Gurus podcast. I'm Linda Bruno. So about, maybe it's 2 months now. Time just freaking flies. That Paul Schmidt had his list. He puts out these lists of like his favorite podcasts. And I was lucky enough to make it, as well as the ladies that I have on the show today from Speechless. And hello to Kim Wilson and Natasha Marchewka.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's just super cool when he listed you guys, and I had not checked out your podcast at the time, and I thought, well, this is awesome. We should trade stories and find out how it started, in voiceover as well, and all that good stuff. So I appreciate you joining me today.
So fun. I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah, thank you.
We're excited.
Awesome. Kim, let's start with you. So how did you get started in voiceover and the podcast too? Who between the two of you, who came up with this idea?
Well, I think the both of us, to start off, both of us kind of came up with the idea together. We were just kind of brainstorming on different ways of marketing ourselves and getting to know the community more. And I think it just kind of happened. I bet you have a better story than I do, though, Natasha.
More specific.
More specific. I'm like, yeah, it's just this, a little of that.
Well, why don't you share about your VO story?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I started back in 2010 and kind of dove into the world that way. And I just coached a lot, and I didn't realize there was a bigger world outside of the Boston, because I'm from Boston, outside the Boston world.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, I kind of quit voiceover and dove in headfirst to acting. And I got involved in the acting scene, and I did some indie work and decided, okay, let's do some improv. And then I jumped back into the world of voiceover. And that's when my career really took off. I was like, oh, I get it. It's all related.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
really the acting, obviously it's the foundation of what we do.
Yeah.
But that helped to kind of take you to the next level with.
Absolutely.
Okay. Gotcha. What about you, Natasha? How did you get started?
So I worked at a radio station, but I was in promotions, and I was about to go on to maternity leave, and my friend suggested voiceover, told me what it was, told me about the online casting platforms. And while I was still at the station, I booked a very small, very, very small TV affiliate commercial. And so I could get a sense of, okay, this is who's looking for voiceover, and this is how I will build my business. So 2006 is when I started, and I spent a lot of time emailing with the subject line female voice talent. And a lot of women didn't have a studio at that time. So it was really easy to get clients. It was super small clients. It was retail, TV, and radio commercials. And so I built my business on that and just grew it from there, and was really tenacious about holding on to clients, emailing them, and also snail mailing them and sending them gifts or whatever it took to strengthen that list,
Yeah.
um, to have a sustainable business.
Now you're out in LA?
I am.
And
Yeah.
you've been in LA this whole time?
No, I started my business in Canada and then moved to the Caribbean and then back to Canada and then to California. So I've only just landed my green card in 2021, which allowed me to work fully in the States.
Oh,
Ask her how many places she's lived.
how many
Oh.
places have you lived?
31 homes. I did the math on it recently.
Okay, I'm gonna compete with you on that because
Oh,
I actually moved. Well, I'm just one shy of you. I have moved 30 times in my life.
wow.
Gosh, you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
I come in at a measly 11.
Well, 11's still a lot
It's
too.
a lot.
Yeah. But mine was like a few different. I was born in Texas, then moved to Colorado, then moved to Florida, part of Florida, then moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and then back to Florida, and then to New Brunswick, New Jersey, and then back to Florida, Naples,
Wow.
then up to all different parts of Florida. I did like 12 years there, and then came up to New York in 97, but then moved into the city and then Philadelphia, which I loved, and then back, and now I'm on Long Island, and been my longest stay, which
Is this because
Yes.
of radio or because of the military or what?
no, I know, I know. No, initially my dad was just a corporate marketing guy, and he was like the vice president of companies, and he kept getting better jobs. So we would move every year, which I
Yeah.
hated.
Right.
You
As a
know,
kid.
Yeah.
yeah, because you got to make all new friends and go to a new school. I mean, it was
That
good for
does
time.
not make for an easy middle school life.
No, no. I
Middle
mean,
school, the worst.
pros and cons, right? You can adjust
Right.
a lot of things because you've had to, fit in different spots. But by the same token, I don't have like a hometown, you know.
Right.
So,
Yep.
but yeah, no, I've been in Long Island the longest and very happy about it. But that's cool that you
Good.
moved so much too. Now, what about with you? Why was that, Natasha?
Well, when I was young, when I was a child, it was how my parents got away from paying bills. Um, and as an adult, my husband, like your father, kept getting better and better jobs. So
Yeah.
we would move to wherever he could get a better opportunity. Yeah.
Wow. So the Caribbean, you were there for a while?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't
For
that
you.
sound amazing?
I
Cayman
know.
Islands.
Cayman Islands. Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. So many experiences. And Kim is just Boston and where else?
Boston, let's see, Connecticut, Boston, LA.
Well, where were you born? You weren't
I was
born.
born in Michigan, moved to
Right.
Chicago, moved to Connecticut, moved to LA, then moved to Boston area. And within those, I kind of moved around within those to make up for a
Boston.
total of 11.
Boston's a great town, great city.
It is. It's small enough to walk the whole thing if you want to. I do not want to,
Yeah.
but it is small enough to do that.
I do
Oh.
remember driving around it and not being able to get anywhere because the
Yes.
way that the roads are, oh my God. It
They're
was
made for horse and buggy and not, and so there's a lot of like very tiny roads and a lot of one-way streets because of that. So in order to get someplace, you have to go left and then right and then up and then turn and then left and then right and then come back down around. And then maybe you find a parking space, but you can't find a parking space. So you go up and down and left and right and round. It's crazy. Crazy.
but
Wow.
such a great town though. And
Yeah.
LA is great too. We're not going to take anything away from LA. LA is LA.
I love LA.
I actually live in Santa Clarita, which is it's in LA County, but it's not in the city of LA. So it's kind of nice because I have everything. I'm in the uber burbs. So I have everything I need here.
You go still into proper LA for anything, workshops, meetings, conferences?
Yeah, I learned how to drive on the interstate because I would go to Marilyn Wisner's voice casting the VO Pros nights that she had and just go in at night for 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock or something.
Yeah.
When the interstate wasn't busy. And so I would build up my courage by doing those nights. So
I
yeah.
always see
That's a
there's
good
so
story.
many great like animation workshops out there. I mean, my God, you could
There's
take
so much to
anything
do.
and
I know.
everything.
Yeah.
No.
When we have that in New York, I'm right outside New York City, but I don't know. It seems for animation and New York is a little more business. So it's like there's not a lot of animation stuff out here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. I do direct people sometimes to the online. What is it? It's LAB. Oh, I don't remember the name of the website, but they have some really good workshops and they have some good guest coaches and
Hmm.
maybe you know of
There's
it.
a few of them that have that host those little nights where,
Mhm.
I think I know Bill Holmes, I think the VO doc, yeah,
Mhm.
hosts a bunch of interesting workshops like that too, and he's in Burbank.
Mhm.
There's a lot of there's a lot
Yeah,
of
there are a
really
lot.
good opportunities out there. So are we all moving there, I guess? I don't know.
I wish you
I'm a
would.
New Yorker. I'm
Yeah,
stuck.
I'm an East Coaster
Stuck
myself.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a difference for sure. So tell me how you guys decided to do the Speechless podcast. How did that come about?
Well, as Kim said, we were brainstorming on marketing ideas. And what I really understood is that YouTube is where my clients are. Video producers, for example, they spend a lot of time on YouTube. So I just felt like being visible on YouTube was a good idea. Now, have we maximized ourselves on YouTube? That's a whole other, job. Um, but I knew that doing the video portion was going to be important to be
Mhm.
seen and to be visible. And then the podcast part came a year later. So we'd already done a season full of video webcasts before we even made it a podcast. And making a podcast was easy because we had the audio. So we don't specialize in sound effects and making the audio sound amazing. It's
Mhm.
just us showing up and enjoying ourselves. And we spent the first year, just the two of us, talking about all kinds of topics and having a lot of laughs. And then subsequently, we have interviewed people and found that that's really interesting. So,
Yeah. Other people are interesting. Yeah. It was cool. We have found also that it's kind of strengthened and enriched our community life within the community. And
Mhm.
how wonderful is that? Getting to know all these amazing talents and their stories, and
yeah.
everyone has such a unique spin on how they go about their business and
Yeah.
how they keep um, basically their careers going. Everyone has a
Mhm.
different kind of
Yeah.
backdoor way to keep
Sure.
afloat.
Mhm.
Um, and then I think just meeting, I mean, we're people, Natasha and I. We just love to meet other people and get to know them and hear their stories. And I'm
And
probably
I'm
repeating myself,
crazy
but
about
I
VO
love it.
resources. I love to know all the resources. So, when you mentioned something in LA that I wasn't familiar with, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I love to know what are all the things and then share them. I really feel like that was lacking for a long time, is that wasn't able to get to conferences and I wanted to know what are all the resources, and
Mhm.
sharing wasn't really a thing early on. So, um,
I'll tell you that I started the podcast because of the fact that being on Long Island, I've always worked out of a professional studio. So I'm not the typical, voice talent who works at home. But we have like a video and audio production studio here. So I wound up getting students coming to me and saying, I just got ripped off by this place. I need
Oh,
$5,000 for whatever
oh,
this is. Can you help me? And it burned this fire in me that was like, okay, the glamorous aspect that is sold about this business is driving me crazy. And then
mm-hmm.
others are going to know. I talk about this all the time. And that's why I thought, you know what? I want to get on and I want to talk about the realities of what we
yeah,
all go through. That this
yeah.
isn't, well, just book that one job and then I'm set, or I'm going to be the next voice of Pixar. It's like, yeah, you'll get struck by lightning first before that happens. And people have that concept in their mind and they're getting taken advantage of from
Yeah. They're being sold
Democrats.
the dream, right? They're being
Yes.
sold
Well,
the dream.
Yeah.
even podcasting, we just got an email asking, how do I start a podcast and how do you make money from it? Like that was the email. And I
Uh,
responded, we don't make money from it.
you
It
don't.
costs us money.
Yeah.
The end of story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when you make something look easy, people think also that it's an easy thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
And that's same with voiceover. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're just interested and they ask, well, where do I start?
Right.
Well, Google.
I feel it's very important to be realistic, which is why I like to talk about the nitty-gritty. What difficulties have you had? Yeah, so as voiceover actors, Kim, have you encountered any type of difficulty, something that you wish you knew about before you headed into VO, something that you didn't realize you were going to have to deal with? Any part?
Yeah, I mean, there's oh my God, there's so many. But one I think I've already mentioned, like, oh, there's a bigger world that I can also be part of as a
Mm,
voice talent, and that was the larger community. Oh, I can submit auditions to LA agents. I can submit auditions across the world. I didn't really know I had that option. I thought I was limited to the city I'm in. And then I think the bigger thing was I'm an artist. I went to school for art and acting and, you know, what is this thing called a business and a business plan and what? How do I do that?
mhm.
Um, so that's been like a record scratch moment. It's like, oh, I need to learn how to make this a business and reach out to clients and have client relationships and do a spreadsheet. Boop, beep, boop, boop. Like what? So I'm those are the things that I wish I knew ahead of time. I don't think it would have changed my mind, but I think I maybe would have been prepared a little better if had I put a little more research into that.
Okay. What about you, Natasha? Did you have anything that
Yeah, I'm definitely, but it's the sort of opposite of Kim. So, couple of things. One is anxiety in the booth. I've been doing this
Mm.
a long time, and suddenly in my personal life, finding anxiety is affecting my voice.
Mm.
And I wish I had, I don't know, done something else that would have helped on the long term. I mean, I've studied yoga, but you actually have to practice yoga for it to be effective. And also the craft. I have one regret, and that is not taking acting classes early on. Um, I've been doing it a long time, and in my youth, I studied broadcasting and also singing. But I took a few acting classes. I wish I had really delved into
Mhm.
acting and been an actor so that I had that toolbox. And of course, it's never too late to
Right.
do
Right.
anything, but we are adults with busy lives and businesses. So
Yeah.
Right.
pulling that together is a
So the
challenge.
whole anxiety thing you say is affecting you performance-wise or does affect you performance-wise? Yeah.
It does. Hmm.
I can
My,
relate. My father, when he passed in 2015, I did not realize that all my grief was going to go to my throat.
Oh.
mm-hmm,
And I wound up just, it was closed. It was
hmm.
closed for like 6 months. I had to hire a singing coach to help me get through stuff. I had to go through bereavement therapy because everything
Mm.
just went of the moneymaker, of course. The
Yeah.
moneymaker is going to
Right.
just freeze up on you. And you never realize that what's up here and what you're feeling here is going to affect it so much. So that was a struggle for me for about 2 years.
Good to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good for everyone to hear this because I don't
Yeah.
think, I mean, I struggle with anxiety and it affects me in other ways. But it's real.
Yeah.
We're just not out here playing around. The shit is real.
Oh, yeah. And it doesn't go
And
away. I mean, you
no.
can be, in this business forever. I've been in it forever. And I have a client last week. I will start to get freaked out like a week in advance. Like, okay, my voice has to be perfect. I want to make sure everything is right with this client. And I'm like,
Mhm.
Linda, come on. You've been doing this. You had this client, that client. But my head starts to get crazy if I let it take over.
Yep.
Yeah.
It ruins it. It's like suddenly the performances, but we are creative beings and this comes with the process. You have to learn how to deal
Right.
with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm so
Yeah, and
grateful to have Natasha as a partner because she really does balance me out in terms of like I'm this creative crazy and she's this very grounded,
creative
solid.
crazy.
She's this very grounded business person. And so we really complement each other, both in our podcast and in our friendship, I think. Yeah.
Mhm. That's great.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Natasha, though, because like Kim is saying, it's good to talk about this stuff. I know
Mm,
people, especially before they enter this business, don't realize they say, well, I'm just going to talk. I'm just going to read something and talk. And
right.
everything
How
else
hard can it be?
will fall into place.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had someone say they wanted to do audiobooks because they could read for 8 hours a day, no problem. I'm like, it's a little
Oh
different than
boy.
reading for 8 hours a day.
I was like, come on over. I would be like, come on over. Let's go. Let's
I
see how you do.
Let's see how you do. I know. I think if I think back to something that I had in my head was going to be different, I put a lot of faith into getting an agent early on. And I was like, once I get an agent, that's it. I'm going to be, cooking with gas. And yeah, it was great and all to get an agent, but not realizing that I was such a huge part of getting work.
Yeah.
And I would just wait and go, why hasn't my agent called me? Why hasn't, and obviously the world changed and now everything went online. But at the time, that was my biggest, I wish I had known back then that, hey, doofus, you have to take your own business into your own hands.
Right.
Even before online casting appeared.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm.
yeah. I didn't know anything about that.
Oh, so I always
Why
thought
would
that
you though? Yeah.
back in the days of the 1900s that we could just rely on agents, but maybe that's not true. Maybe everyone did have to.
Send out their cassette tape.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah. I
mhm.
used to joke that I would go through dead periods and I would call the agent and go, what's wrong? That they would just open up this big book and go, okay, what excuse do we give Linda today?
Oh,
Well, the unions are blah, blah, blah. Okay. They'd come sit me down. You're good. You're good. Don't worry. It's coming. And inside I'd be like, what? Because there were no coaches that were, you couldn't go get feedback from anybody back then. So,
yeah.
but live and learn. These are things that make us who we are now, right?
Yeah, and now
And
I feel
why
like
we
we
have
have to do,
sustainable businesses.
right, we
Mhm.
do so much work to have a sustainable business just to keep afloat, especially someone that's one piece of advice I feel like people entering the business need to know. You need to figure out how to create a sustainable business. You're not just going to go in and read for an agent. Behind the scenes, you're going to be on your computer all day
Yep.
looking for
Mm-hmm.
work.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to do that, that's the work.
Right.
The
Yep.
fun part is getting in your booth,
Yeah.
you
Playing with
know,
scripts.
playing.
If you don't
But
have
the
anxiety.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, Natasha, do you do anything special to try to help other than like you mentioned yoga, but
So many things actually now. I've been studying with a neurosomatic intelligence coach.
that
What does
sounds
that mean?
fancy.
It sounds so fancy, and it kind of is, but it's um, adjusting your nervous system with small exercises,
Oh,
really small things. Yeah. So, and they're odd, quite
interesting.
frankly, but some of them are straw breathing, different breathing exercises.
Straw,
Um,
as in like I'm drinking out of a straw. Okay.
mhm.
That's a classic one to open up your soft palate, isn't it? The
Mhm.
straw
There's the
trick.
whole thing. Yeah. I
Mhm.
don't know a lot about the straw. I mean, I have them, but I don't know all the
Does it
technical
help you
things.
though with anxiety?
It does for the short term, just short little fixes. Yeah. So, trying to integrate more walking and therapy and all kinds of things to try
Hmm.
to, yeah.
Is it
Trying
something
to
that came
control.
on or you've had it for your whole life?
I
I'm curious.
realized, as I was feeling it this morning that in voiceover, I had been feeling little bits of it early on. I didn't recognize it as such.
Hmm.
Um, but for instance, I was doing many years ago some e-learning for L'Oreal during Christmas. Like I refused to do it on Christmas Day, but they wanted me to. Not L'Oreal, but the hirer. And I realized that if I plugged my right ear, it kept getting plugged, but if I held it down, that help me. It's a tiny little thing, but I actually have earplugs in my booth. And if you put it in one ear, it actually, for some reason, helps.
Wow.
So that's
That's a
one
good little tip for
quirky
people
thing
to
that I do.
try. Yeah.
Mhm. Kind of pull out a little pressure on yourself, I guess. Right.
Yeah. And then, of course, deep breathing and getting out of the studio. Another one that's Kim, I've taught before, but when you swing your arms and then if you slap your sides and your ribs, it's called rib slap. It's touching, it's just bringing you into the present. There's just certain things that bring you in the present and then taking a deep breath and starting again.
I take medication. So
there's that too.
that helps.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
on my list as well.
Good
That is
old
perfect.
standby.
I know. When COVID hit, my doctor was like, okay, you're having panic attacks. Let's try this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you, COVID, for
I know, just kicking
this
it back.
generation of
Extra anxiety.
yeah.
I know. So okay, we know why you guys started the podcast. Do you guys go by, you have episodes, you have seasons too? I don't do any of that stuff. That's why I'm curious.
Well, we realized that anything goes. So we were committing to once a week for a while, and then we were like, oh my gosh, this is a lot.
It is.
And then we realized, well, how about we have a break in the summer? And then we realized, well, we could just do it every second week. And so anything goes.
Yeah.
So we're in season 4. We're at about episode 120 or so.
Yeah.
But it's loose. It's just
It's pretty loose.
It can be whatever you want it to be.
The seasons kind of go with the year, sort of the chunk of the year that we decide the months that we work in.
Mhm.
So yeah.
And do you guys plan in advance, like far in advance, as far as like your guests, your topics? Are
We
you very
do.
nice and organized?
We do, although sometimes we'll have this brilliant idea or something's happening within the industry and we're like, oh, we got to record this. This is going to be an amazing subject. But for the most part, we try to do it ahead of time. Wouldn't you say?
Well, we definitely talk about it and talk about it and talk about it. And then, like Kim says, then whatever happens, happens.
Mhm.
So we anticipate who we may want to have on the show and then see if they answer us.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't answer.
Speechless. Who? Right.
I run out of creative inspiration from time to time, and then I'm like,
Oh yeah.
I got nothing. So I guess we're not doing anything this month,
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
nothing. I got nothing. But I'm like you, I keep very low production elements, plug and play template on my Pro Tools and just, my coaching partner, Kevin Kilpatrick, he does the Making Waves podcast.
Uh-huh.
His is all like beautifully produced and he has like a song and all. And I'm just like, I can't do it.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I'm excited
Some of us do,
to
some of us don't.
spend some time with Kevin. We're going to Dublin on Friday for a voiceover retreat.
Yes.
He's
He was
going.
telling me about that. That's going to be, so are you going too, Kim?
I am not. I'm going to hold down the fort here
Okay.
for the both of us.
How
I wish she was coming.
How
I
long
wish
is
I
the
was going.
retreat? Like 10 days? I don't know.
Well, I'm going to be away for 9 days, but it's actually only from Monday cocktail hour to Saturday morning. So the education is Tuesday through Friday.
And have you been to Dublin?
Oh, no.
Fabulous.
And I haven't been to Europe in decades. So
Oh, that's going to be so fun.
Yeah.
excited to be on some different soil.
Yeah.
It's going to be really cool.
So do you guys have a favorite podcast episode that you've recorded?
Oh, that is a good question.
It is.
Not to play favorites, but
I don't know.
Well,
What do you think? There were some in the beginning that we just had so much more fun.
like
before the
laughing,
game.
like we would laugh and we had to like cut them out because we couldn't get our shit together to stop laughing. I mean, we were just hysteric sometimes.
One of my things, I don't remember the name of it, but it was like having kids and doing voiceover and pretending, doing sign language that isn't necessarily sign language. And you're like, that was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Because it's like this universal, I'm recording
yeah.
kind of a situation.
I said, be quiet.
Yeah.
Do not go up the stairs.
Yeah,
Kids
I
have
had a
kids.
studio under the stairs at one point.
We both have kids. Yeah. We
Mhm.
both have 2 kids. I have 2 girls. And Natasha?
Yeah, and I have a boy and a girl, and mine are in their late teens, and Kim's are in their early 20s.
Oh, well, okay. So you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about too much like noise.
Except for
Not
they all moved
anymore.
back in. Mine moved all back in. So they're
Oh,
not playing, but they're like, it's a full house here.
yeah.
I've also got somebody's boyfriend has moved in, so it's a full house.
Some random person's boyfriend.
Some random person's boyfriend. No, no. No, one of my kids' boyfriend moved in as well. It's fun. I love having a full house. It is like my dream. I view it as like just the short little time before everyone goes off and becomes adults and leaves.
Yeah.
And so I'm really treasuring this time, making dinner, or we all make dinner together. It's really fun. It's a really fun time.
That
Sounds
sounds
very romantic.
yeah, very,
Yeah.
very pleasant. I'm not of that ilk. So I think it's great. So being such, Rosh Hashanah is this week. This will be aired later. It's not even aired anymore, right? What do we call a podcast?
I don't
Dropped or
Dropped?
I don't know.
Yeah, dropped, I think.
Rosh Hashanah, I'm not Jewish. My husband is, and it gets dropped on me last night. Oh yeah, can we host Wednesday night? My parents over, and I'm like, yeah, okay, you're Jewish parents, and I'm making matzo balls too. Anyway, it was a whole thing, and I'm like, I don't want to do this family thing. But
You're like, I'm
It's a
out. You're gonna
lot.
tap
It's a
out of your
lot.
family. It's a lot.
and I can't. I have to do it. So, but
Yeah.
I'm happy for you. You like the Full House. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Kim is an amazing cook. I'm not.
No.
So I back away from hosting things. I would love a
I
full house.
love to host, and that's the problem because I don't want to half-ass anything, and I can't.
Right.
He's like,
Yeah.
what's the big deal? I mean, you
Yeah.
just, it's like,
Yeah.
he's like, why can't you just not worry about it? I'm like, are you,
What?
don't you, 15 years you've known me. And I mean, I've already started decorating for Halloween 2 weeks ago, mid-September.
If
And I
you
have a
can
big,
find the not worry button,
Yeah.
press it,
Hello.
please,
I'm
because
like, who are
we've
you
been looking
married?
for it.
So that's why I was kind of shocked that he just was like, oh yeah, sure. Just have the in-laws over.
Oh my
But
gosh,
love
the
you, honey.
pressure.
Love you, honey. It's okay.
Oh my God.
Take me out for a nice dinner to pay me back for that one. But
Yeah.
otherwise, okay. So elevator pitch. We're in the elevator and somebody says, what's your podcast Speechless all about? What would you say?
I would say Natasha.
Yes, she would.
Over.
She would. And I'd scramble.
Yeah.
Well, we call it real life and VO, behind the scenes. Well, actually, Kim, we always say, welcome to our show. What do we say?
Welcome to our behind the scenes take on real life
In VO.
and VO, where
Where
we
we
share
share
our
our stories, our
our resources, and our
our
unsolicited
unsolicited
opinions.
Love it.
Yeah.
Sounds like professionally written and everything.
Yeah.
We came up with it in a smart moment.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Well, it's such a pleasure meeting you, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me on the
Oh,
podcast.
thanks for
great
having
to meet
us.
you.
And everyone can also check out Speechless, where your favorite podcasts are streamed. Isn't that how we say it?
Yes.
Yeah, and have a great time in Dublin. And Kim, have a great time with your kids and
Thank you.
the boyfriend moving in and all.
Yeah. And the cats. Don't forget the cats. All right.
Yes,
Woo!
yes. We have cats too. Love my cats. So that wraps it up for another episode of the Voiceover Gurus podcast. Thanks so much for joining me. And head over to voiceover.guru. You want to coach with us? We got some good workouts coming up in November, October, whenever anyway, we've always got workouts happening. I'll keep it generic. And that does it for today. Everyone have a great rest of your day.